course, literally as I go live, they put a hold on mission launch for New Glenn at 20 minutes and 50 seconds. And I was literally like holding off on going live because I didn't want to be stuck in a situation where we were the other night where they just kept delaying until the point where they actually scrubbed. So we'll see what ends up happening with respect to this. But while we're here, and while I have you beautiful people on live with me, it's prudent for me to just go ahead and check out what's going on with the markets. So I have my dashboards up here on Robinhood Legends. We have the SPY, which is this one in the upper left. We have the VIX. We have the Qs. And we have IWM here on the upper right. And we have the Dow Jones Industrial in the lower right. Got to get my directions right. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal start to the year. If I haven't talked to you already, January 15th, 2025, believe it or not. The years are flying by. And was surprised to see with CPI prints coming in the way that they did today. I don't want to go over that again because I'm sure most of you watched the midstream. If you haven't, CPI went well. I think a lot of people were expecting anything below 0.2 month over month, and it turns out that's probably about where we're at. So ended up looking good for December CPI prints, and so we've had a rebound in what we observed for the past few days, which if you go back to last week on the SPY, you can see we kind of started to have a retracement pullback. People were starting to wonder, is this correction territory that we're towards, etc. And luckily today we were able to kind of come up. Obviously, we've been flat kind of overnight since the market closed. You can kind of see that that's relatively the same across the board, other than the VIX slightly climbing a little bit, 0.6% compared to where we were at the end of the market. So we'll see what ends up happening with respect to that. But based off what we're looking at here, TLT is flat. This is another one that was up pretty significantly today. For those of you guys that are following, TLT has been on this rapid pullback. And TLT, for those of you that don't know, it's a 20-year treasury. Obviously, this means the yields are going up on the 20-year treasury. And with that, that means obviously the price of the bonds that are out there are being devalued because the majority of the bonds that are out there are 3%, 4%, etc. So as you climb closer to 5%, it makes those bonds that are out there less valuable. So hopefully at this point we hit some sort of pivot point. This might be a short-term bottom on TLT. We'll keep an eye on that with respect to what ends up happening with 10-year treasuries, etc. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that specifically. And let's hop over to some of the key stocks that we look at here on the Manny Mullah channel. We look at Palantir a good bit. We're back up to $68, up about 50 cents overnight. We did actually have a decent pullback to like 64 or something like that. When was that? Yeah, 64 was that Monday? Yes, Monday. And since then, we've kind of been on a rise back. Obviously now, today, with things coming back into favor, we're at 68.62. We closed just above 68 at the close. And as we go into overnight trading, we've traded up about 50 cents. We have Rocket Lab pulling back into the $23 range at one point over the past few days. And now as we gained back up to $25, you can see it started to dip a little bit after overnight trading, but it is back above $25 there. We have IBIT 56. This is equivalent to about $100,000 on a Bitcoin, 99,000 and some change. So interesting to see that come through. As always, we're always trying to understand exactly where Bitcoin is heading. Some people are short-term bearish. Some people think that we can actually go back to 50 to 70,000 just based off of Fibonacci's, but I think it's very low likelihood we'll see this continue climbing, in my opinion, towards the higher end of the scale. I think it might flatline here. You know, it might pull back to 90 again. It might go to 85, but 70,000 just seems a little bit out of the realm for me. Very confident that by mid-year we'll start to see this thing moving, and by 3Q, 4Q, this thing will be north of 150 per Bitcoin. We'll see what happens with respect to that. Some people are still very skeptical, but I was in that camp, 8 to 10 years ago. So let's take a quick look and gander as to what's going on with New Glenn. Nothing as of yet with respect to what's going on. Let me turn down this volume really quick so your guys' eardrums don't get blown out. 20 minutes, 50 seconds. Let's see on Twitter if New Glenn has a update for us. If Blue Origin has an update for us, let's say rather. So Blue Origin, as of 51 minutes ago, New Glenn is fully fueled in its inaugural mission, carrying out our Blue Ring Pathfinder. 34 minutes ago, they started the live stream. 3-hour launch window opens at 1 a.m. EST. Obviously, we are 15 minutes away from the opening of that window, which is what this countdown was counting towards. So I'm not exactly too sure at the moment what exactly they are they're holding for. No updates at the moment, so we'll keep ourselves on the look as to what that is. Let's just see here. Anybody in the chat that we know? We got Chin Huan. What's going on? Homestead Outpost. Savici says. Melanie, what's going on? Henrik, Bunker Buster, Gregory Allen. Only 10 followers to go on Twitch. Yes, for those of you guys that are interested in watching on Twitch, please go ahead and take that opportunity. I don't expect everybody to watch on Twitch, but if it's something that you prefer, please go ahead and do that. It is helpful. We need like 3 people on average to watch the Twitch streams, and eventually that'll come through with monetization. We got Bunker Buster in here. We got Michael Anthony. Yes, they are doing another launch. We got Cray. When you and Chris doing another Cashflow Chronicle, it's a good question. I wanted to do one last week, and I haven't followed up with Chris. So, yeah, Smart Kiwi, what is going on? So, glad that you guys are here. It might just be an interesting stream where we're just sitting around waiting. But in the meantime, it's been interesting. We had a Blue Ghost launch yesterday on the Falcon 9 rocket. For those of you guys that don't know, Blue Ghost is a subcontracted out vehicle to Rocket Lab. Firefly is the prime contractor for that vehicle, but Rocket Lab helped put together the software, the landing, the trajectory, a lot of the subcomponents and the subcontract work into that. So it was nice to be able to check that out with a lot of you guys, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with respect to New Glenn while we wait for it to stop being on hold and actually head towards launch. But how's everybody else doing, man? We can talk stocks between now and then while we wait for this thing to kind of kick off, and as I await to see if there's anything that shows up. Oh, I'm seeing closed captions. I saw a closed caption. Generally, those closed captions show up before people talking in the audio. So I don't know. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here. Still nothing on the Twitter page. So let's just check in with you guys. What's going on? Another tease. Yeah. Might be another scrub. Let's see. We got Hot Doug, the man, the myth, the legend, Greg Allen, looking very beautiful this evening. I paid you to say that, my guy. Your check is in the mail. Space Ghost looks good, my guy. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. Let me know if you guys are interested in these space streams. I know it's kind of atypical of the channel where we talk about, Rocket Lab or Palantir or whatever when it comes to stock and investment thoughts and things of the like. But to me, these launches to me are kind of like a hobby, and then coupling it with the fact that it coincides with a company that we follow and near and dear to our hearts, which is Rocket Lab. And obviously the success of New Glenn also is beneficial for Rocket Lab One, from a competition standpoint, and then second, from the fact that eventually New Glenn will be launching a Rocket Lab vehicle um, to help measure the polar fields of Mars called Escapade. And so, um, while we had a great launch with Blue Ghost yesterday, which is the Firefly vehicle, which is subcontract out to Rocket Lab, New Glenn from Blue Origin will eventually be launching the Escapade satellites, twin satellites rather, to be able to measure um, a lot of cool, interesting data around Mars. So there's that piece. Yeah, so I was actually reading. I had to ask a buddy. He sent me. There was a. I don't know if it was on the 13th, maybe the 12th. There was a conference. I think it was Adam Spice that was talking, and I had somebody send me the transcript. I've been looking for the video online, couldn't find it, but I did find the transcript. So I have to ask him if he's comfortable, not with me sharing his name or anything, but with me sharing the data. So it'll be interesting to see if I can get that. A lot of cool information, not a lot of things that you guys don't know if you guys have been following Rocket Lab as a company for quite some time. Just kind of I guess another nail in the coffin, or at least another brick in the foundation for what we already know is going on. They're well capitalized from a genuine space perspective. They have lots going on with respect to the different satellites they put into space. They have plenty of experience from the James Webb all the way to things more recently, solar panels, reaction wheels, star trackers, etc. These guys are on a next level, and through their legacy companies that they purchased over the past 4 years, have really built themselves into a very vertically and well integrated company that allows them to be a prime contractor, subcontractor, launch rockets, small and eventually medium launch rockets. So when it comes to who you're going to go to, when it comes to, subcontracting out to someone, prime contractor, etc., Rocket Lab is a one-size-fits-all shop, and they've really grown into that over time. So we got Hot Midwest in the building here. It's a physical manifestation of the hard work of everyone in the space industry. Yes, 100%. I think you should do a Cash Chronicles on your own. You have really good information. Chris seems to be bailing most of the time. Well, if it's Cash Flow Chronicles, then and it's on myself, then it sounds like it's just a regular money stream. And while I love Cash Flow Chronicles, at the same time, that revenue is split between me and Chris. So if he's not going to be there, it just doesn't make sense to do it on our own. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, more than happy to answer it here and have that conversation. I found like $80 or $100 in my backpack today, and I was super excited. I don't know if I pulled out just like cash because I was traveling and I just needed to like make sure. I was just when I had like a couple 20s on me. I don't ever carry a lot of cash, but just in case I need to like tip someone or get myself out of a bind, get water or something like that. It's just like, if I lose my phone, I have another means of getting something, right? Or at least getting me, a quick Uber somewhere to wherever I need to go. And or at least a taxi or something like that. So it's kind of cool. I forgot it was in there. I was like cleaning out. I was looking for the dongle that goes to this headset that plugs into the USB ports here. And I was like, oh, I couldn't find it. So I had to like take out some of the stuff. And I found it like $80, $100. So I was like, oh, but I remember afterwards, I was like, I remember why I put that in there. Love hanging out, watching the launches, talking Rocket Lab. Thanks for streaming so late. Absolutely. Appreciate you guys staying up so late. I was really hoping. It was literally as soon as I hit live and go that they hit hold. And it's kind of a bummer, man. Kind of a bummer. So maybe in the meantime, we'll go over to the dashboards and watch them kind of update over time and see what happens. And I've actually thought about just like leaving up a dashboard like this overnight, whether it's on Twitch or whether it's whatever, and people can kind of come in here, chat with each other, and Did I find my marbles? No, those are still wildly gone. But yeah, like my thought process, if you just like leave this going, would people in the chat box just be chatting away? And like my thought process is I could have it like going between that, this one, the Palantir, Rocket Lab, iBit, and then whatever other ones. And I have some other thoughts. Like if I were to do that, like there's some other thoughts, but I don't want to give that away. But we'll see. I think I might do that with a when the new 5070s come out for Nvidia, those new chips, I might build another mining rig because it's fun. It's a hobby. And so I might build like a PC, and that PC might just sit off to the side to the left, and I might just operate off my laptop. And what I would do is I would probably just have my laptop running a stream 24/7, whether it's on Twitch, whether it's on Map Money, etc. And with that, it would probably do that, and I would have a little game. I'm not going to say what, but a little game, and hopefully people would enjoy it, and they'd like to chime in with it. So let's see, Palantir 60 cents overnight. Interesting. All right, so let's see what you guys got to say. We got a super sticker, much appreciated, $4.99, fly by night. Much appreciated on the super sticker. Is there anything? Oh, a little noob action. I like it. I like it. I am a big noob. 4 Rocket Lab shares exactly. Yeah. Let's hoping to get sleep. Oh, and if you hear anything in the background, like I literally just thought it was raining. It's like the windows were literally right behind you guys. Well, I guess you're over there, but right over here, right off screen, right below this, or right behind this lamp, about a foot, there's a window, and if it starts raining, you can hear it. And I heard like this, like what I thought was water on the windows, and that's me doing laundry. So if you hear anything, that's the laundry going in the background. So I'm like a single mom, you know. I have to do all the jobs. So late start for you tomorrow. Why not just hang out with Maddie? I agree. Sounds like a great day. Given all the news today, are you expecting any small 10 or so percent retracements in the future in order to buy more shares? With respect to Rocket Lab or in general, I don't know. I'm always kind of on alert. I still think that there's another shoe to drop with something. Although I will say the Israel Hamas thing was kind of a relief, and I'm actually kind of curious as to why you're not seeing a little bit more relief in the oil price. The oil price continues to climb, and I've been rather surprised by that over the past few weeks as we've entered. And I can understand why natural gas is going up because we have some startups in the LNG space. But yeah, it's interesting. Let's see. I was reading North Dakota, Bakken Shale, etc. Interesting. Just reading something really quick about that. Interesting. So there's that piece. Let's see what else was there. First heard about Rocket Lab from you in April 2024. When did you hear first hear about Rocket Lab? I actually first heard about Rocket Lab back in the day. It was a Tuesday, and my buddy Cole, shout out my buddy Cole, he said, "Hey, there's this like SPAC, right? SPAC days, right? So sorry, it's a SPAC. You just gotta kind of live with it." But it's like, hey, did you ever hear about this company called Rocket Lab? I'm like, definitely had heard about Rocket Lab. It was kind of like somebody that had already been kind of doing a lot of work in the background and launching some rockets, and they've been successful for like 3 or so years. And I'd heard about it, and I wasn't too familiar with the organization, but he said, hey, they're going public. And it got me going because at the time there was a lot of chatter about space companies starting to come up. Virgin Galactic in might have been 2019, had just done their SPAC with Shamal Palpatia, You had Astra, Momentous, and a few other companies that kind of went public via SPAC. And so like space was kind of coming around as like this new norm that people were trying to get invested in. And the thing that bothered me was just like a lot of these companies are burning cash and none of them actually have a product yet. But I knew Rocket Lab had some successful launches since 2017. So it made me more comfortable to at least look into them. And so I actually had a decent investment in Rocket Lab. It wasn't very large, but I invested in the SPAC. I think it might have been like the initial $1,000 to $2,000, and then as the other companies, like I had some money in Virgin Galactic. Once that started to really show up as something that was really just burning cash and didn't really have a lot of forethought and planning, I got rid of that, cut it early, made a little bit of money on it, and then same thing with Momentous. I think Momentous actually had pulled back at that point, but I was like, I'm just going to continue to consolidate. So I consolidated all of it, and this was like late 2021, early 2022, and I did more work with the looking at the company, doing some research, adding when I thought it was prudent, watching the rockets. You could go back on the channel. There's rocket launches many moons back, even before we started Rocket Lab Weekly with Vince. I had Rocket Lab Weeklies on the channel before. It just was like inconsistent, intermittent. So you can go back and check those out, from years back. And we did rocket launches years back before Vince and I started doing them. So it's been around for quite some time. And so that was kind of the May 2021 timeframe, I guess, of like when I physically got invested in the company. And sorry, I don't know why I'm not in here. And so, since then, it's been a whirlwind. It's rather good in that respect, and we've done quite well on the returns of Rocket Lab, and yeah, that's pretty much that. So shout out to my boy Hot Coal when that hangout. Oil can only go so low. You heard it here first. One Neutron. Hopefully soon, my man. Hopefully soon. Thank you for the stream. You're welcome for the stream. 7 a.m. meeting. Jeez. I think I also have a 7 a.m. Where's my phone? There it is. Let me just double check. I think I have a 7 a.m. So like if this ends up being like how it was the other night, it keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed, then I might call it, because my hope was all right, I have a 7:30. 7:30. Is it possible to predict the demand? I'd say it's pretty predictable within a percent or so. Really, the only time there's really issues with predictions is when you have major geopolitical issues or you have pandemics or something of the like that really interrupt the supply. Um, so, demand, supply is probably easier to track than demand. Um, but generally they're pretty good. But the problem is like it's such a fine margin. Like people think the difference between oil prices is probably massive amounts of percent difference with respect to supply and demand, and really it's an imbalance of like 1%. So if you have like 1% more supply than you do demand, oil prices are going to tank. Versus if you have 1% more demand than you do supply, prices are going to skyrocket. That's pretty impressive at that point. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Let's see if they. Oh, we might have a scrub here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Let's check out Blue Origin's. They have since gotten rid of the timer. They have since got rid of the timer. Yep. All right, we're T-minus 30 minutes again. This is good. This is good. This is good. This is good. So we got 10 minutes until they start chit-chatting. So hopefully it doesn't end up like the other night where we are literally continuing to go back and back and back and back. So I'm kind of curious. When did you guys first hear about Rocket Lab? Are you even interested in Blue Origin? Are you interested in SpaceX? Are you interested in space? Or are you strictly just looking at this because I'm here? Because for me, it's I think it's important. I think honestly, this is a developing space where I don't think we've seen the end of it. I think that there's literally going to be, if you haven't noticed already, 200 launches per annum for SpaceX. There's going to be 200 launches per annum for Rocket Lab on the small launch, medium launch, etc. And New Glenn, who knows how many launches? I mean, it's probably comparable, 100 to 200 launches per annum. So we're literally talking about, when you think about these things, the three key staples to going to space. And maybe you have ULA, and maybe you have ESA, the European Space Agency, and you might end up having one or two other players come through. But you're literally talking now like a handful of folks that are really going to be determining the future of space going forward here. And so to me, I think that's really brilliant, and you're literally seeing an industry form in front of your eyes. And I think it's going to be a lot like cloud computing. People are like, okay, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to be there. But I think they're really underestimating the true value of what it's going to mean in terms of market capitalization for these organizations. And, we've seen Rocket Lab, grow north of $10 billion market cap valuation. We've seen SpaceX grow north of $300 billion. Where is that going to leave Blue Origin? Where is that going to leave Rocket Lab 10 years from now? Does Blue Origin even need secondary funding? Is it ever going to get a valuation? Because if it's fully funded by Jeff and he doesn't really need to go for funding, then, there you go. Which actually makes me kind of curious, because Elon's technically richer than Jeff. And, you don't really hear about Blue Origin going out and seeking more value or seeking more funds. But at the same time, they don't launch as much, I guess, as SpaceX. So they've done 20 or so New Shepard launches. Now they have the New Glenn launch. This will be the inaugural one if it pops off today. And how frequent will the New Glenn launches be? I mean, this was supposed to be launched back in 2020, 2021, and has since been delayed. Then they had the launch window, October, November 2024, then December. And now this is the closest we've gotten to launch, 27-minute countdown. Hopefully this is the last 27-minute countdown for the evening, but we'll see. They did state that there are issues with respect to the with the weather, but they filled it up anyway. They said, let's go for it. So let's see. They are entering hold with the countdown clock at T-minus 20 minutes for BE4 chill-in. New 2-0 forthcoming, and that was 22 minutes ago. So that was 22 minutes ago. We've since reset the clock. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Let's see. I don't want no scrubs. I'm with you. No scrubs tonight. We're going full port. Started with Rocket Lab during VACQ, Vector Acquisition Corp. Blue Origin is an awesome big fan. Haste every week. And I did see something. I don't want to say where it's from in case it outs the person that sent it to me, but the ability to launch over 100 times from New Zealand is possible. So you can launch once per week per pad. And if you think about it, there's 2 pads in New Zealand. And so with that, without your tubes, I won't own Rocket Lab. There you go. Glad to hear that, I was able to bring you to the light. But don't thank me with respect to it. Just, I'm the shepherd. But at the same time, I'm not the one that's actually out there doing the work. That's the guys over there in Long Beach, the guys over there in Virginia, the guys in Albuquerque, the guys in New Zealand, the guys that are really doing the hard work over there. Thank the guys at Rocket Lab. Yes, clock is back working. First heard about Blue Origin from a teacher colleague. She ended up having a career change from kindergarten to working for Blue Origin. Very interesting. Hopefully she's doing well. Love the comparison to cloud computing. I've always used AWF as space. Is the music choppy as hell for you guys too, or is it just me? All right. Love the cloud compute comparison. AWS to space is an analogy to describe the end-to-end space as a business. I like all the companies as an investor. I think Rocket Lab is the best option. I agree. Blue Origin seems focused on space tourism, SpaceX on exploration and communications, Rocket Lab on end-to-end systems. We'll see. I'm curious to see where it ends up happening with respect to the constellations piece, because constellations that they're putting together for Global Star, constellations they're putting together for who else? For the FDA. It's not too different. And you look at like the band communications that they're using. Like I think Starlink uses a KU band or a KA band, and then some of these other constellations that Rocket Lab's putting into space is using a slightly different band. I think a higher frequency band, which might be able to transmit maybe more data, but it's easier to be interrupted. It's not as strong of a signal. So it's interesting to see the different bands that are being used to go back and forth between the constellations and how comparable they are, if not actually more what's the word I'm looking for? Higher frequency. Actually, the stuff that Rocket Lab is sending to and from. And I wonder why. Why aren't they using the KA band or KU band, whatever one is? One is like 10 hertz to 15 hertz. I want to say that's the KU band, and that's one Starlink uses. And then the other one's like 30 to 50 hertz. And that's the one that Rocket Lab is using. Got back into Rocket Lab back in early 2023 because of Peter Beck. Had big faith in him, threw a few $1,000s at it with a friend, and loved the run to 4 to 7, then it fell back. Hopefully you're back in it, my man. Hopefully you're back in it. Brent, what is going on, my guy? Thanks for showing back up. Matt, do you think a successful Blue Origin launch is bullish for Rocket Lab? I wonder if this increases general interest in the sector. I think not only the sector, but it helps increase competition. And then also, Blue Origin is going to launch the Escapade mission for Rocket Lab. Obviously not this time around. This is actually their own sort of satellite communications device called Blue Ring. But in the future, Escapade is going to be a Mars satellite that helps measure things in Mars. And so that expertise, that data, will obviously be very bullish for Rocket Lab. And then also the Falcon 9 launch the Falcon 9 launch yesterday, the Firefly was also very bullish. Because obviously Rocket Lab helped design the solar panels, it helped design the software and everything that goes on that lunar lander. So to me, this is all just additional capabilities that Rocket Lab is showing the world that they're capable of doing. At that point, if you think about it, Rocket Lab will have assisted in a moon landing, which cannot be said for something like SpaceX. So, not to say that I don't think SpaceX has the capability. I think they do. But I think that SpaceX is waiting for the Artemis mission to really get some of those things down in terms of capability. Whereas I think Rocket Lab is really jumping at any opportunity they can to be subcontracted out to. And that's what happened with Firefly. So, and who knows? I mean, there's a lot of time. I know I was expecting it to be a couple days. It's actually a couple months, a month and a half, 2 months journey between now and when we actually see the lunar lander from Firefly land on the moon and finish its mission over the course of 4 or 5 days or so. And between now and then, Rocket Lab is the backup operator for that. So while they are currently trying to operate the Varda mission, which will eventually return satellite back to the U.S., or maybe not to the U.S., but back to Earth, will also be potentially the backup for the Firefly lunar lander in case Firefly loses communication or has issues. And you have Escapade and many other things that will be launched. But I think competition's good for the space, and it's not like,
the human need to explore is deep within all of us. Our ancestors crossed mountain ranges, sailed open oceans to map new lands, and sought out the unknown, while always looking to the stars. We're curious, and now we're at a place where we can pioneer new horizons. Now is the time.
You shepherd has cleared the tower.
To open the promise of space to all.
Yes, guys, we're doing it!
And lay the way for generations to come. When our descendants look to the stars, they'll remember this time. When they reflect on where it started, they'll remember this place. And when they honor those first explorers who said, "Let's go," they'll remember these bold steps. We are of blue origin. And this,
that's right there, is go for that.
Is just the beginning.
Welcome back, everyone. It's another great night for a launch attempt for our new rocket, New Glenn. Denise, thank you once again for joining me.
Thank you. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Here for it no matter what.
I hear you on that. Glad you're here for it. We introduced you the other night. You're a principal engineer on the New Glenn program. It's always good to have someone with a deep technical background here for the webcast. Now, picking up from where we left off a few nights ago, we had our first attempt at this NG-1 launch, and the team had trouble with a couple technical issues along the way, which exceeded our available launch window, and we had to call a scrub.
Yeah, the team realized that the scrub was due to ice forming in a purge line on the auxiliary power unit that powers some of our hydraulic systems. Now, of course, auxiliary power units, or APUs, these will provide power to a variety of systems. It includes some of our hydraulics and other actuating surfaces.
Now, I'll say again, we've prepared rigorously for this first flight. Anything beyond our first objective, which is reaching orbit safely, is going to be a bonus. We know landing the booster on the first time is ambitious, but you know what? We are
Guten Morgen, Jürgen.
And no matter what happens, we're going to learn so much. We'll refine, and we're going to apply that knowledge to our next launch.
And yes, that booster landing, we are really going to go for it. It's a key part of our first flight, and we really can't wait to see what happens with the booster. And yes, we recognize here at Blue Origin, it is incredibly hard to pull off, especially for the first time you try it, but you might even say we're just a little crazy to try it on the first flight, but the data we get for flying the complete mission profile is incredibly valuable.
You know, in fact, the attempt that we went through just the other night really netted us data about our vehicle, about our operations. So even though we didn't lift off, just going through the countdown in launch control was so valuable for our team. It is our goal to net immense amounts of collective knowledge about our vehicle as we build up our program, and that knowledge base is already growing.
I want to remind you that we have an early technology demonstration for Blue Ring on this flight. Now, this isn't the full Blue Ring vehicle. It is a pathfinder featuring core subsystems that we want to validate. It's a non-separating payload that is going to stay attached to the second stage through its entire 6-hour mission duration. So it is another exciting day, and we're just so glad that you are back here joining us for this launch attempt. Once again, it's not just Denise and me. We got a couple other faces helping us bring you all of the action today. Why don't we check in with Maggie McNeese from our government team in our DC office. She's reporting from upstairs in Mission Control. Maggie, you there?
I am here so long as you're here and my friends here in Mission Control are here. I'm going to stay.
Okay, good. All right, welcome back to our next launch attempt. Maggie, do you want to remind our viewers where you're standing up there? You are just one floor above us. What's around you? What's the action?
I've got mission control right here on my right. Just down the hallway a little bit is our launch control center. These rooms have our controllers, our engineers, everybody who's working to make this launch a success today.
Love it. Thank you so much, Maggie. We're going to patch you in as we go. Why don't we check in now with Eddie Seifert back at nearby Cars Park. Our Ford employees once again are gathering for a second attempt. They are hardcore. Eddie, are you there?
Yeah, Ariane, welcome to the best seat in the house. This is fun. We're having a blast out here.
Another day, another employee gathering to cheer on New Glenn. An odd question because I think I know the answer. How are everybody's spirits down there?
We are happy to be here. We're so proud that we get to be together, a part of the community. We're, hanging with each other and sharing hot dogs and huddling together for warmth. But we're most looking forward to the rumble of the BE4s, looking at that blue streak across the sky. And now this crew behind me, they've committed to cheer more loudly than the BE4s. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Y'all stay warm out there. We're going to keep you on speed dial, Eddie, as we continue with this show. Additionally, we also have employees at our other sites across the nation checking in and rooting for New Glenn. Let's see how they're doing. We have sites across the country. There we go. We've got Huntsville, Alabama, our headquarters in Kent, Washington. What up, guys? We can see you up there. We have our flag bearer from the other night. He has not given up, that guy. Kent, Washington, again, our headquarters, where we work on all the projects. And then, of course, Huntsville, Alabama, where we build our BE4s and our BE3Us, as well as the Blue Ring system. They are ready to go. This is a big night for all of our employees across the country. Kudos to you guys. Let's do this, Blue Origin. All right, we are here at T-minus 13 minutes to go until launch. Why don't we check out the star of the show, New Glenn at the pad here as this rocket gets ready for its first launch ever.
Now, for those of you guys that are listening in, this will actually be the first time, if they reach its orbit, that Blue Origin will have actually reached orbit. New Shepard, while it touches the edge of space, doesn't physically go into orbit. And so people have always given them grief a little bit about how they call themselves astronauts. And same thing with kind of the folks at Virgin Galactic. Are they truly astronauts? I mean, from a tourism perspective, sure, you could say that, but are they actually going to outer space? The answer is probably not. And so it's going to be interesting to see New Glenn actually be the first time that Blue Origin goes to outer space if they are successful in this. And I think you guys also heard them say they are going to try to land it. So I'm very curious. These guys are going to barge attempt, not like what they did with Starship #2, where they tried to do a soft water landing. And I believe at the moment, that's also the way that Neutron is going to do. They're going to do a soft water landing for their first try as well. So I'm curious to see what ends up happening. I do believe this is going to be beneficial for the industry as a whole. And I'm also curious to see, once you get a first successful Blue Origin New Glenn rocket, what kind of contracts come out of the woodwork for the New Glenn rocket. And if that's any sort of testimony to what would happen once Neutron gets up and running. Now, we've already seen 2 contracts come through for Neutron. So curious to see
Welcome back,
what ends up happening with New Glenn.
11 minutes and 12 seconds to go until New Glenn's first launch ever, NG-1. So many of the people behind this mission are not only critical parts of the New Glenn.
Don't thank me, Pedro. Thank the guys over
passionate people who are dedicated to
over
the
at
larger
Rocket
mission of
Lab
Blue Origin.
and a hold.
And you can tell because so many of them, including you and I, Denise, are ambassadors on behalf of Blue Origin's Club for the Future.
Yeah, you're an ambassador. I'm an ambassador. There's actually thousands of us here at Team Blue Club for the Future is Blue Origin's nonprofit to inspire and mobilize future generations to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. These kids are tomorrow's aerospace workers.
Yeah, Club for the Future is a perfect example of how we here at Blue Origin can do something about inspiring the next generation. We have a
They
program
did just
where
say
kids, parents,
weather
anyone
is
can
green.
draw on a digital postcard. We'll send it to space, and they'll receive it back as space-flown piece of art. And today, we have digital postcards that are actually going up to space on New Glenn.
That's just so fun. That's the kind of thing I would have loved as a kid, and I know that my children also love making those postcards.
All right, I understand we are ready for a go, no go poll. Let's stand by.
Now, 12 minutes ago, they just said the BE4s are chilling and ready to fly. Weather is green. New Glenn, new 20 is 1:35 a.m. Eastern. And since then, they've put a hold at 11 minutes and 3 seconds. Once again, Pedro, don't thank me, man. I'm the shepherd, but those guys at Rocket Lab are the ones that are doing all the work. So shout out to those guys, the ones that are actually putting in the work to get the stock to go up 600%. Yeah, Rocket Lab's pretty consistent at doing it at 12 minutes. Now, during the silent time, let me just take an opportunity to ask you guys if you do prefer to watch on Twitch. Here is the link on Twitch. I'm trying to get the viewership over there. Once again, no obligation if you prefer to watch on YouTube, just trying to grow on different platforms. Wonder what's really going on, man. I would agree with you. 11 minutes and 3 seconds is interesting. Interesting to say the least. Let's see if Blue Origin has messaged anything in the last 10 minutes or so on Twitter. Entering unplanned hold due to range red for a wayward boat. Rogue boat! A lot of people are watching this. 1 minute. This tweet was out. And it's already got 538 loves and 139 retweets. So there's people definitely with eyes on this.
For joining us for NG1. We were very close to getting into that go, no go poll. Unfortunately, we have to go into a hold. And as you've seen there, we are now at T-minus 34 minutes. Unfortunately, there is a boat that has errantly come into the cleared range. And we're going to have to clear that boat out. So that is going to take us some time here. As we have said before, our number one objective this evening is to get to orbit safely. And that includes not just the rocket, not just our teams, but everybody in the area, including people on boats. So with that, we're going to continue to watch New Glenn here for a moment as we get ready for New Glenn 1.
Didn't they say they were gonna? Did they say they were gonna put on a video or something? Interesting. Well, In the meantime, I did want to actually share some stuff. So let's go into some finance. I was watching some interesting videos with Tom Lee earlier, CNBC contributor, as they call him. And yes, here it is. So let me pull this up. Now, I like Tom Lee because he's generally got a pretty good head on his shoulders, but he's insane. Love him. Here we go.
Better than expected December CPI print. My next guest says this morning's report could be a good sign for the months to come. Joining me now with his market outlook and his best stock ideas for this month is Fundstrat Global Advisors Tom Lee, a CNBC contributor. Welcome back.
Great to see you, Scott.
All right, first, your view right now on this market is what?
I think that markets are showing some relief that CPI was dovish, and actually I think some of the inflation prints the last 2 days have been dovish, including PPI. So it's setting the stage for yields which kind of were close to touching 5% to kind of cool. And at a time when sentiment's been negative, I think we should be rallying.
Is the Fed back in the game? Which means this report was good enough, these two reports, really, as some are saying that, okay, you're not going to get a cut in January, but you could get one in March. And some people had written cuts off for many, many months.
Yes. Into this CPI print, the whisper number for core CPI was over 0.3. So the market was bracing for a really hot number. And you could see it in the Fed fund futures where, as of yesterday, there was a 30% plus chance of a Fed hike. I think those sort of extreme views have been quelled. And I just think generally, without counting for the fact that the California fires could mess with inflation, the inflation print over the next 3 months is going to be a lot lower than what we saw November and October. And remember, January to March of last year, it was close to 0.4. So I think inflation is setting up for some good comps.
Okay. How optimistic are you for the type of return we could do this year after back-to-back, 20+% gains for the S&P?
We've gotten some good harbingers so far because the first 5 days of this year, the S&P is positive. So I'd say there's an 80% chance of something over double digits for the year. And what's going to matter to a lot of people is how we do for the month of January. But as of January 15th, we're up 0.7%. So those are good harbingers for the year.
Can we have a good year if the Fed doesn't cut until later in the year and bond yields remain elevated for a while?
If bond yields get stuck here, it is a severe tightening of financial conditions. And I think it's going to hit housing, and we're already seeing it now. So I think it is important for yields to move directionally lower.
That's a long way of saying stocks will not be good if bond yields stay where they are now.
Yes, it's going to test the market's resolve. I don't think it kills equities, but it's hard for someone to be pounding the table if they think yields are going to be stuck at close to 5% for the next 6 months.
Wow. So if yields, let's just say they stay near where they are now, you wouldn't be as optimistic as you are?
I think it's going to raise concerns there's a policy error from the Fed, that either financial conditions are too tight or the bears will argue the Fed made a mistake cutting too aggressively last year.
Isn't this the base case? I mean, you have what is arguably a more inflationary environment because of some of the policies that are being talked about by a new administration. Sure, they may stimulate more economic growth, but with that potentially comes more sticky inflation too.
Well, there isn't necessarily a connection between growing faster and more inflation. There is some inflation that can be generated by tariffs, and that's the uncertainty.
But that's what I mean also. It's like tariffs, it's inflating the deficit. It's just reinflation. It's the reinflation trade based on some of the expected policies that may cause that.
True, but to keep in mind, last year's inflation, first of all, a lot of last year's inflation was what they call imputed because it was just statistically catching up to the price changes of the years before, but it's housing and auto insurance were 80% of the inflation over the last 4 years. And the third is labor markets, which we know aren't in an inflationary position. So in order for new policies to generate inflation, they have to be powerful forces that fiscal spending hasn't generated the last 3 years. So I'd say that it's difficult for me to make the case inflation's getting strong.
Interesting there. I think that's interesting to hear with respect to, do we actually think inflation is going to get insane or not? Now, let's just try this view, actually. Let me try to do it this way. This view also shares system audio. Hope this doesn't mean it shares everything, but we'll see. So there's that. So let's just take a quick look and hear what Josh Brown has to say with respect to the best stocks in the market.
We have some movement too, not necessarily new buys or sells, but we have additions in terms of Josh Brown's best stocks in the market list. So we have some additions here and a few subtractions too, Josh, that I want to address because we've been highlighting these for our viewers, and we do have some ownership around the desk. So in to the list, the best stocks in the market is 3M, Becton Dickinson, and EOG. Do you want to talk about those first, please?
Yeah, so let's start with EOG because this one has not broken out yet. This is a stock that's been consolidating at give or take roughly the same level going back to early 2022. It's at the higher end of the range. It just popped onto the list. And I think this is the type of situation where you can anticipate the breakout. I think if you're a trader, you sort of want to play this with a stop. What I would do here is utilize the high 1 teens, like 118, 119 as my downside protection. If this were to break down, that's where you want to be out of the name. But if this stock can break above 135, there's really not a lot of resistance here. You have to go back a couple of years to find sellers at that level. And it's in a sector that's starting to reawaken after just horrendous relative performance to the rest of the market. The other one we should do is 3M, which I personally own. I've been in the stock for a while. This has been the type of situation where it had a huge breakout. Stephanie's in it way earlier than I am, but I'm still there. It's been consolidating since September, and now I think it's ready to take its next big leg up. It's right at the upper end of that range, within 1% or 2% of 52-week high. And RSI is fairly cool, which means it's not overbought and it hasn't made its move yet. So these are two names that I think both for traders and investors belong on their radars.
Okay. The other you didn't do. You want to comment on 3M, Steph, real quick?
Yeah,
before
I just
we do
think
the Becton?
Yeah, I mean the new CEO, he's in the job for like a minute, and he has a great track record. Operating margins are the story in the short term. Eventually, they have new product growth, about 10% growth. That should help 2025 as well. But watch the margins because I think that's what's going to drive the short term positively.
Okay. So give me something on Becton Dickinson. What about it makes it worthy of this list?
This is another long-term consolidation. Sort of trading relatively near the older highs. Again, this is medical and surgical products. So it's in a sector that, just to Jim's point, was absolutely left for dead. Nobody wants to be in these names while there's potential for negative rhetoric on campaigns across the country. But that moment passes and these names get rediscovered. So it's a modest dividend payer. It's a $67 billion market cap. It's in an area that people haven't been focused on. But again, it's been trending higher. If you take a look at the way this stock has performed since December, you could tell the tax law selling here, people that just wanted it off the books by year end in a year with huge winners that they needed to offset, that probably peaked the first or second week of December. And ever since, it's been like a beach ball you've been trying to hold underwater, and it's just been kind of levitating higher. I don't think there's anyone left here to sell. A breakout above 225 would be really interesting for a short-term trade.
So in terms of leaving the list, I mean, there was an event around Constellation Energy, so I get it. The airlines, United and Delta, have had amazing runs, so I get it. What about Arista Networks?
Look, this is a pure momentum name. It's obviously highly caught up in the AI story. A lot of the people who quote unquote missed NVIDIA grabbed onto this thing as kind of a life preserver amongst growth mutual funds who didn't want to buy a stock that was up 500%. I understand that mentality and I understand that instinct, and it worked. This has been one of the better performers over the last year. 79%. I just think whenever you have a name with a beta like this, that is so much more volatile than the overall market, and you have a hiccup in the market, this is exactly where you're going to see selling, and that's all that happened here. I think the longer-term trend is intact, and I wouldn't be surprised if this stock, if we get a healthy tech market, doesn't get back up toward the highs of a week and a half ago. So I wouldn't be despondent over it exiting the list, but it definitely needed to cool off, and that's what happened over the last couple of days.
Jason, you own the stock, right?
Totally agree with what Josh is saying. The stock was up 80% last year. It's the number one cloud network solution, switchboard provider. So for me, the momentum is broken. It will come back. There's so much CapEx spend in the AI and cloud space. So maybe it's taking a little bit of break, a little bit of digestion, but this will be a long-term home for us.
Okay.
All right. I did want to actually take the opportunity to look at EOG. That's one of the ones I've actually looked at with respect to potentially buying. So if I do feel comfortable, which I have yet to get to, in terms of buying an energy company here, although they have been on a good tear the past few days, I'm kind of curious to see what ends up happening with oil prices in the short term. It's not to a place yet where I think things are stupid cheap. Cyclical companies like oil and gas, for me, some of my share-based compensation and everything like that is tied to oil and gas, and so I'm a little bit more hesitant to double down just based off the fact that my salary comes from oil and gas, and some of my share-based compensation. So I already have exposure with respect to that. So to me, it doesn't make sense to double down or triple down unless it's really, really out of favor. So for me, I'm still trying to formulate a good list as to companies that I would want to put. EOG is a great company. For those of you guys that don't know, they work out of Trinidad. I saw some of the work that they did in Trinidad. They do a lot of stuff in the U.S., the Permian. I think they just sold a lot of their Eagle Ford assets, but overall have been doing phenomenal work and are $77 billion market cap. That's not small by any means at this point. And then another one I've been looking at, which is interesting enough, this is potentially a turnaround play as well, is Berry Corporation. This one I think has a lot of issues with respect to regulatory issues in California, but could be one that potentially pulls around. And then there's also Blackstone Minerals, BSM. This is one that I've been also thinking about as well. This has a little bit less exposure to the actual oil price itself, but pays a phenomenal yield. And so if oil price or gas prices go in the right direction, this could be one. And then, of course, there's a couple super majors I'm keeping my eye on, but I'll keep that a little bit closer to my chest at the time being. Devon Energy is one as well. It's already up 14% year to date. Has a little bit of a pivot point here. Trying to see if eventually after 4Q earnings, if some of these things roll over once again. So kind of keeping myself apprised to that. Let's just see. When do these guys report? They report on February 18th. What about like Exxon? These guys generally will report like towards the end of the first month in the quarter, like Exxon and the majority of them. Yeah, January 31st. So the first week of February is about when these guys report. So I'm thinking that you might see a little bit of a run for oil between now and the end of the month. But as you see these guys report, I'm thinking there's going to be bad numbers. So now, unless oil prices support it and we continue to see a run towards maybe the mid 80s, I'm feeling like this is going to roll over this little rally that we're seeing here, unless, and this is a big unless, you continue to see like natural gas prices just continue to go through the roof. So if natural gas prices go to like $5, $5.50, etc., then I could expect to continue to see this this rally here. But you can see, some of these things are, in this kind of consolidation period, because you haven't really had any highs in oil prices since mid 2022, and everything's actually kind of just been down. So if you remember, we peaked out at $120 a barrel back then, and here we are now at about $80 a barrel. So that's a retracement of 33%. So we'll see what ends up happening. Once again, my thought process is, for me, I'm not rushing to buy in. I'm not in a rush. Very cyclical companies, and so to me, I would need a rollover for me to be interested in buying those stocks. We did have one last thing from Tom Lee with respect to Bitcoin, so let's get to that as well. I'm hoping you guys can hear well. So nobody said anything negative as of yet. So let's just hopefully.
The Dow tumbled nearly 700 points on Friday. Strong jobs report boosted the case for the.
Sorry, Al.
Find your perfect domain name.
The Dow tumbled nearly 700 points on Friday. Strong jobs report boosted the case for the Fed to hit the pause on a January rate cut. Joining us now is Tom Lee, Fundstrat Capital CIO, head of research. He's a CNBC contributor. And I referenced you earlier, Tom, because I do remember you sort of being positive overall about the market and for this year, but with some trepidation near term. And most of your calls recently have been less on the strength of the economy and more on inflation data. And some of your, like when you were calling things, S&P is going to end the week, 8% higher because of inflation or something. So we got inflation this week. There are concerns. I think I tie a lot of the weakness in the market to that. Are these important numbers?
It's important because, as you know, we've been correcting now for almost a month, right? 23 trading days. And this Wednesday is an important day because it is a possible turning point for markets. And I would like to see CPI come in below, 0.25 or so. And I think that would give that jolt of confidence for markets on top of, I think, earnings, which is going to be a positive catalyst. But for investors in the near term, I think they got to ride out the volatility, because I think yields here have made people nervous. Not necessarily deteriorate the long-term outlook, but near term.
Are they smart, the yields, or are they not giving us the correct signal? Because you sound really like you're not sure about the inflation data this week.
I'll have a better sense over the next couple of days as we sort of finalize what our expectations are. But the only hesitation we have is that the hurricanes last year have muddled some of the inflation quality, because, for instance, hotel reservations would go up because of these natural disasters, and it's going to happen now with the LA fires, and I think it's going to muddle used car prices as well, because you have to replace all these used cars.
So you think if they weren't muddled, that inflation isn't that big of a concern? And when you say a turning point in the markets, if we've been down for a month, turning point doesn't mean further weakness. You think we might be making a bottom this week?
Yes, our technician Mark Newton thinks 5,700 might be the turning point. It could happen Wednesday, so maybe 2% down from here. But that's really where the market could make a stand.
And that's about where it got to.
I think if we could lift the cloud of some of this muddling. In fact, Waller last week even said most of the inflation last year was about imputed prices, meaning the real price of inflation was actually much lower. I think that is still the case. Inflation is weaker when you look at housing, et cetera. So once we can get through that noise. But investors, I think, shouldn't be too glum. I think earnings season is going to be something that really solidifies. Look, if S&P earnings growth is 10%, X energy, and revenue growth 5%, that's a really good reason to be owning equities.
Is the Fed less significant right now with their rate? I don't care whether they, that's not what I base what the market's going to do on. Are people still just dying for another couple of cuts, or I think we're lucky to have gotten what we've already gotten. We got to live with that and just try and hope inflation doesn't come back.
I agree with you. I think the best case this year would be the Fed doing one cut because the economy is strong enough and there's still dovish, meaning they're going to make their way to neutral. But if they push those rate cuts into 2026, 2027, that's a longer run rate to support markets. Part of, I think, the hesitation for stocks right now is we have a new administration starting.
What? Oh, that's right.
Yes. And, like we've essentially reversed that rally from November because we rallied 7% over 23 trading days. Mm-hmm. And now we've given up 5% and another 2% would just round trip us back to
23 trading days.
Do you think stocks look expensive here or not? I mean, we've come back down, as you mentioned, but people keep talking about the PE ratio and how it's historically at the high end of things. Do you think it's expensive, or do you think we have the earnings power to support all of that?
To me, the 10-year, even if it gets to 5%, is a 20 PE multiple on a 10-year bond. Mm-hmm. The median PE on the S&P is 17 times. So I think stocks are giving you much better value than a bond right now. And 5% is probably not the level that yields stay at. It's probably a deflection point.
Tom, what does the movement in Bitcoin say to you? So we're at 91,000. What is that? What is that a signal or a sign of anything in this sort of analysis?
Stupid Fed.
Yeah.
Cutting.
Yeah, Bitcoin's down roughly 15% from its highs, which for a hyper-volatile asset is a pretty normal correction. And it is slightly following global liquidity, but we're pretty early in this halving cycle. So to me, I think Bitcoin in the near term, again, our technician thinks 70,000 is where we can sort of make a stand. Means you're getting a big opportunity because I think Bitcoin's going to be one of the best performing assets.
So hold on, but you still think it goes all the way down to 70,000, or you think that's the floor, in which case you would still buy at this price?
Yeah, so there's Fibonacci's. So one level would be 70.
Let's say that again.
There's retracement levels. So you pull back from where you rallied.
Right.
So 70 is one level. It could go to as low as the 50s. But that's, again, not a new level. It's just where it touches and before it begins to rally.
Okay, let me ask you a different question. For those folks who are watching who are not in Bitcoin or are thinking about buying Bitcoin at these prices, are you saying that this is a fair and good price to get in, or are you saying wait because you think it's going farther down?
Bitcoin is something you need to be long-term focused. I don't think anyone's going to lose money buying here at 90. If they're trying to time this, maybe they'll get lucky and it goes to 70. But to me, Bitcoin could be significantly higher this year, maybe 200, 250. So I think 90 is still a good entry point.
File your taxes 100%.
That's the reason why I wanted to share that one. So let's just hop back over to New Glenn, and that'll be where we probably end off the night, hopefully, with those. But I did want to make sure that I shared that with you guys with respect to what I actually think is important on Bitcoin, because I'm a believer, man. I've been trying to accumulate about 1.5–2% of my salary's worth. I bought a little bit more today. So every time I get paid, I'm buying a little bit. And then if there's ever a big tranche down and I have a little bit of money in my checking account, I'll buy $500 here, $500 there. I'd really like to get to a couple coins, because honestly, I think it's going to be something that I could leverage against. I think it'll easily be $1 million a coin at some point. And so if that means I end up getting leverage or the ability to borrow against it, whether that's through iBit or put it in some sort of cold storage wallet in some sort of escrow where I could borrow against it at a favorable interest rate, I'm going to do it, especially if it's going to be able to yield me,
set up Blair. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We are at T-minus 9 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. We are waiting.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think this might be it.
Poll for New Glenn's first launch to space. Now, at this point, we're going to throw it over to launch control. They're going to go around the room and see if we are ready to go to space. Keep in mind that upstairs we have our launch control and our mission control room. In the mission control room, we have the team that is managing our Blue Ring Pathfinder payload this evening. As we mentioned on the last webcast, I'm particularly proud of our Blue Ring team. It's the team that I help lead here at Blue Origin. They have been working very hard on this payload, and they are ready that as soon as the second stage separates from the first stage, the fairings will deploy, and it is heading out to MEO, to Middle Earth orbit, where it is going to remain up there orbiting the Earth for about 6 to 8 hours or so, collecting various data, checking.
We won't be watching all that,
the
ladies and
various
gentlemen.
Systems, primarily telecom systems. There, you see, pull coming in here. Stand by.
Go pending L-10 actions in work.
Roger, report when those are complete. Recovery. Go. PLI.
Go.
LSO.
Go.
OSM.
Go.
RC. Go. ESR.
Go.
AC.
Go.
And BMD.
Go.
LD is go as well. All stations LD on count 1 with the terminal count. Briefing all personnel remain in current positions until launch. Maintain operational silence in the control room. All controllers move to count 1 for launch. If a constraint is observed between now and launch, commit. Announce hold on count 1. Briefly state reason. OSM LD set hold fire switch to launch position.
Launch.
And LD is in launch. Guido, verify, abort, request, flag, false.
Looks like it's happening, ladies and
Abort
gentlemen.
request is false.
Roger.
7 minutes. This will be exciting. Now, what I will say is I'm going to be upset because I've been thinking about this as I did this New Glenn launch stream on Monday or Sunday morning, and then I am doing it again tonight.
Launch. This is our first flight, and obviously we've prepared rigorously for it, but no amount of ground testing or mission simulation is a replacement for flying this rocket. Our key objective today is to reach orbit safely. Anything beyond that is a bonus. And believe me, we are nothing if not persistent. Now we're getting very, very close here. T-minus 6 minutes and 30 seconds to go until launch. Our terminal count is beginning in just a few minutes. You just heard it right there. We are go for launch this evening. But one important aspect of our rocket that we haven't really touched on today, our New Glenn rocket is called New Glenn. It is named after an American hero, John Glenn, the first American to orbit Earth, circling it 3 times in 1962.
He also served as a U.S. Senator for more than 2 decades in the state of Ohio. And then amazingly, Senator Glenn flew to space again in 1998 at the age of 77 on board the Space Shuttle Discovery STS-95 mission.
Now, this gentleman led an incredible life. He died in 2016 at the age of 95. But shortly before he died, our founder, Jeff Bezos, was able to connect with the senator and tell him that we hope that he'd be willing to lend his name to Blue's first orbital rocket. And we have here a copy of the letter that he sent back. You can see it is really meaningful to us. Just a moment, let me read you a couple of words. When I first orbited the Earth in 1962, you were still 2 years from being born. And when I returned to space in 1998, Blue Origin was still 2 years in the future. But you were already driven by a vision of space travel accessible not only to highly trained pilots, engineers, and scientists, but to all of us. I'm deeply touched that you've named the second generation of those rockets New Glenn. As the original Glenn, I can tell you, I see the day coming when people will board spacecraft the same way millions of us now board jetliners. When that happens, it will be largely because of your epic achievements this year.
I get goosebumps every time. You know, he's the first American to orbit Earth, and I've seen that letter hanging in our headquarters building in Kent.
Yeah, it's one of our treasured artifacts. Everybody, we're at T-minus 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go until launch. We are very close. We are coming up here on terminal count.
Much appreciate you
not
stopping
go
by on
anywhere.
the Twitch. Yes, excited to see that we're launching a rocket. And I was thinking, like, I'm hopefully on the ground with Neutron. Who's going to be streaming it? Because normally I'm streaming it. So, like, you know, maybe there's some issue where there's a delay or something like that. I can't end up
T-minus
making
4
it.
minutes and counting. Terminal count active.
There was nothing more that I would love than to stream it with
Staging
you
timer
boys,
started.
ladies and gentlemen. But I don't know if I will be. It's sad to think that I might not be streaming the first Neutron launch, and I'll be there in person. But maybe I'll end up setting up a way with like a tripod or something like that to at least capture it in person. I don't know.
30 seconds. Upending system armed.
Yeah, there you go. You're on the stream.
Magic charge initiated.
This is the Amazon's New Glenn. Blue Origin's New Glenn.
Our team is now securing all the commodities to our first stage and our second stage. They're also going to be draining and purging all the umbilicals that are supplied to New Glenn.
T-minus 3 minutes.
What's happening, my guys? It'll be exciting. At some point, I would love to go to Mahia.
GS2 hydraulic secured. Magic charging complete. T-minus 230. GS1 pre-press start.
It's happening, man. I feel it. I feel this one. I didn't feel it before. I didn't feel it on Sunday. I knew it was going to delay. For an hour, I said, you know what, I'm going home. I'm going to bed. I got meetings in the morning.
We are now pressurizing the tanks to their flight pressures. Of course, this is crucial for the performance of our engines. Getting ready for launch.
T-minus 2 minutes.
Firefly's in the process of landing us on the moon. And
we're now going to be switching off the ground power supply and transitioning New Glenn to its internal vehicle batteries. When this happens, the vehicle is now powering itself. Let's do this, New Glenn.
That is in part of support as a subcontractor, Rocket Lab. But in terms of people on the moon, good question. I don't know as of yet.
T-minus 130.
We'll have to find out in 2027, 2028.
Power internal.
Guys, it's happening. It's happening.
There
Ladies
it
and
is. New
gentlemen.
Glenn is alive.
T-minus 60 seconds. Range green. AFSS flight enabled.
What was that?
APU's running. T-minus 30 seconds. GS1 at flight level. GS2 at flight level. Big water start.
That's a big water command. There's a water deluge. Here we go, New Glenn.
It's time to do this. Let's light this candle.
Autopilot enabled. T-minus 10. 9,
Getting emotional.
8,
it's exciting.
7, 6, 5, 4, 1. Liftoff. All 7 engines at full thrust. Chamber pressures are good. Vehicles cleared the tower. Now passing 18 seconds into flight.
That's a big candle.
Engine chamber pressures look good. 27 seconds in. Vehicles
100 miles an hour.
Now begun the pitch roll maneuver to point down range. Body rate responses are nominal. Chamber pressures continue to look good. Now 40 seconds into flight.
200 miles an hour.
End of roll. Strakes are now level.
Mile up.
Chamber pressures continue to look good. 50 seconds in. Data quality looks good coming down from the vehicle.
300 miles an hour.
Chamber pressures continue to look nominal. 1 minute into flight.
2 miles up.
And liftoff.
All 7 engines
continue to look good on the first stage. Data quality is good coming down from the vehicle. Body rate responses are nominal.
500 miles an hour.
And laying
1 minute,
the
15
first
seconds into
bricks
flight.
as we build a road to space
5 miles up,
for
4
the
miles up.
benefit
Sorry.
of Earth.
Profile looks good.
Dude, they're gonna try to land this thing. We're gonna fucking watch it. Believe that?
Continue to perform well.
That'd be fucking
Now
awesome.
passing 1 minute, 30 seconds into flight. Passing Mach 1. New Glenn is now supersonic.
900 miles an hour.
Engines continue to perform well. Now passing through Max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. Body
About
rate
8
response
miles up.
phenomenal throughout the boost phase.
10 miles up.
Data quality continues to look good. Chamber pressure is looking
And
good.
we
All
have
7
passed through Max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. The toughest part of the flight on that vehicle, we
Now
have
passing 2
punched
minutes
through
into flight.
it, and New Glenn
Chamber
continues
pressures
its
continue to look
ascent
good
to
on all
space.
7 V4 engines. Acceleration profile is good. Body rates look good. 1 minute to MECO.
Now keep in mind, these guys have never been to orbit before. This is gonna be big for them.
D3U, LH2 chill and started. The E4s continue to perform well throughout the boost phase.
I think they're about to get there.
Now passing 2 minutes, 30 seconds into flight.
There it is.
Trajectory is nominal. 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Approximately 30 seconds remaining in boost phase.
And here we are coming up
Chamber
on
pressures on all
MECO,
7
main engine cutoff. Let's stand by for that.
You look good. Stage 2 RCS priming. Now passing 3 minutes. And we have MECO. We have stage set. And we have ignition on both VE3Us. Chamber pressure is good. Now passing 3 minutes, 40 seconds into flight. Body rates look good. Data quality coming down from both stages. Looks good.
They're officially in orbit.
PS2 performing a pitch-up maneuver. Body rate response is nominal. VE3U chamber pressure continues to look good. We have good payload fairing jettison.
I'm not getting the video feed. I'm getting the numbers though.
Separation confirmed of the 2 stages.
Tank pressures are within their limits.
Stage 2 is now continuing its launch
see
and
the
flight. It's
boat.
up into
Now
MEO.
passing 4 minutes, 20 seconds into flight.
Our booster is going to try to make a landing.
Less than 3 minutes
You
now
see
remaining
the
to
landing
GS1.
target out there in the ocean. We are going to land on the Jacqueline, the landing ship
Continue to look good.
that
Body
is
rate
awaiting
response
this
are
beautiful
nominal.
booster to make a landing.
GS2 bottles look good. Trajectory looks good on both stages. 4 minutes, 50 seconds into flight.
These guys have technically never been beyond the Kármán line, I don't think. Dougie, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Passing 5 minutes.
This is the first time that they've been beyond the Kármán line.
Thrust on both VE3Us continues to look good. 5 minutes, 20 seconds in. Less than 2 minutes now remaining to GS1 engine ignition.
Thank you again, everybody, for
GS1
joining
has
us for
reached
New
out.
Glenn's first launch to space. So far, 5 minutes and 30 seconds into launch. Everything continues to be nominal. A clean separation of stage 1 from stage 2. Stage 1, our booster. We are looking to land it on our landing ship, Jacqueline. There you see its targeted landing spot where the feather is there. And stage 2, carrying the Pathfinder for Blue Ring, will continue its mission up towards MEO orbit, where we will be collecting data for 6 hours. But let's continue to watch here as the 2 vehicles continue on their way.
Good, both VE3Us. Confirm GS1 engine chill active. Less than 1 minute now remaining to exo atmospheric engine ignition. 6 minutes, 30 seconds into flight.
So coming up here, we're going to see the middle of the 3 7BE4
Body
engines
rates
on the
GS1
booster
and
light
GS2 look
up.
good. Chamber pressures on both VE3Us.
This is going to
continue look good
slow
throughout
the
the burn.
vehicle down, and then as the vehicle gets closer to the landing ship, the Jacqueline, the 2 outer of the 3 middle engines will shut off, and just 1 in the center will remain to help slow as well as guide the vehicle back
It's dropping
to the
fast,
landing ship.
man.
As you've also seen on the booster vehicle, we have the steering fins at the top of the booster, as well as the strakes, which act essentially as wings. This vehicle is flying back to the Jacqueline, providing lift to come in for a nice, soft, and vertical landing onto the landing ship, the Jacqueline.
Successful
Chamber
thus far,
pressures
in
on
my
both
opinion.
VE3Us.
All 3 engines relight confirmed.
Body rates look good on GS2. Continuing through its planned burn. Now 7 minutes, 45 seconds in.
Is this the booster? We got 15 miles up.
Seeing good MR response on the V3U engines. Seeing good throttle profile. Chamber pressures continue to look good throughout the burn. 8 minutes, 20 seconds into flight.
Not seeing velocity for stage 1 or altitude for stage 1.
GS2 tank pressures staying within their acceptable limits. Body rate responses look good. Chamber pressures look good throughout the burn. 8 minutes, 40 seconds in. Now passing 9 minutes into flight. Continue to see data from both stages.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I feel good about the landing. Looks like that's
GS2
gone
data
kind of
quality
quiet.
continues to look good throughout the burn. Chamber pressures, both engines staying very close to each other. GS2 trajectory is nominal.
Still a successful launch, in my opinion.
Less than 3 minutes now remaining in the GS2 burn.
And I think, I think if they bring back whatever
Thank
satellite.
you again, everybody, for joining us. Wow, what a moment so far. We obviously have some frozen data here on our stage 1, on our booster. We're still waiting to understand what the situation is with the booster. Meanwhile, our second stage, GS2, continues
10 minutes, 20 seconds into
its
flight.
ascent, as well as its climb towards MEO, which is where it is headed this evening. We are still waiting.
Continue to see good throttle response
Again,
on both
our
V3
first
engines.
our primary objective, getting to
rates,
orbit
continue to
safely.
look stable
Let's stand
throughout
by
the burn.
here.
So I think, even the stage 2, I think they're going to be up there for 5-6 hours, collect some data, and then they're going to actually try to re-enter.
Tank pressure is staying within
Which is
acceptable
also
limits.
that's a huge
Bottle
thing,
pressures
because not a
look
lot
good.
of people re-enter
Data quality continues to look
successfully,
good
and they're
throughout
able
the
to collect
GS2
data.
burn.
I don't know if they're actually going to they're collecting the data from the satellite. They're actually going to try to land the satellite and try to capture the satellite.
$11 minutes, 10 seconds into flight. GS2 is now 1,700 kilometers downrange, traveling at 6.7 kilometers per second. Data looks good coming down from Tidris.
Yeah, you're right. It is dropping in altitude.
Both BE3Us continue to look good, tracking nicely in chamber pressure. Body rate responses are stable. 12 minutes, 10 seconds into flight.
I think at this point it's reasonable to expect that without cheering or anything like that, something unfortunate went along with the stage 1 recovery or landing. But the fact that they got engines reignited from Dougie, you know, he's more of an
We have
expert about
IAP
this stuff than I am.
GS2 is now orbital.
Beneficial. The booster touchdown. Did I miss what they said?
12 minutes, 53 seconds in flight. And we have engine cut off. Body rates look good following engine cutoff.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Seco, we cut off the engines on the second stage. What does that mean? That means that we hit our key critical #1 objective. We got to orbit safely. Congratulations,
That's
Blue
awesome.
Origin. Y'all have gone orbital. What a day. We see our teams down in Huntsville, our teams in Kent. I know the team out at Cart Park down here in Florida, they are all losing their minds. Congratulations, everybody. What a day. We are in space. We've got our Blue Ring Pathfinder ready to warm up, ready to start drawing in all of that great information. What a day. We're going to go to Cars Park here. We have Eddie Seifert.
14 minutes, 10 seconds.
Hey, Ariane, we are so happy to be here at Rocket Park, our orbital launch site. This team is so proud that we got to orbit. What an incredible rumble from the B4 engines. This was such an experience to live together, to be a part of this community.
Amazing. You can feel the energy. What a fantastic day. Thank you, Eddie. To the whole team, again, congratulations on getting to orbit. Now, I know all of you are tuning in. We're still trying to get all of the data here. We seem to have lost telemetry on the first stage, on the booster. We very well may have lost the booster. We are still coming in with all of the information. I want to make sure that we get you the right information. But nonetheless, the main objective that we were going for this evening is that we hit orbit. And now I do have confirmation that we did in fact lose the booster. You can see from the map there how close physically the booster got to making its landing. Of course, we'll have all of the information on what exactly happened with the booster in the last moments. As you did hear, we did have the booster relight the 3 middle engines, which is what we were looking for. So things we know were good up until that point. But we just need to go through the data. And of course, after the show, on all of our social media channels, we are going to have more information on those details.
Still cool that they were able to at least try.
Here, we hit our main objective. We got to orbit safely. Let's go up to mission control and launch control. Maggie, what's going on upstairs right now? I bet our team is pretty excited.
The fives, Ariane, they were high. The bumps were fisted. It was, oh my gosh, it was electric. I've got these people here. They're still working. They've been standing up. They've been sitting down. The folks behind me are celebrating. It is a good night here up in Mission Control. Obviously, you know, as you mentioned, lost the booster, but there is still a lot of work going on. We've got these guys in Mission Control, guys and gals in Mission Control, ready to keep watching our second stage, see if that blue ring Pathfinder can continue on its mission. And, you know, the work's going to continue for quite a while tonight, Ariane.
That's right. That's right. My team, our in-space systems team, their job basically has just started, right? They're going to get that blue ring Pathfinder going. Maggie, can I ask you, we felt it down here in the studio. What was that rumble like as New Glenn was taking off?
It was hard to describe. It was the rumble, the railings shook, but also it was so bright, Ariane. That whitish blue light out there was just impossible to take our eyes off of. Everybody here was glued to their view right over there, and it's been just incredible.
Amazing. You can see on our screen there, we've got the
now, for those of you guys
we
wondering, you know, what exactly is going to be happening with it when it comes to Neutron, and you know what are they going to be doing? So they're not going to try to land it on a barge. Is that Jeff right there? That's not Jeffy. See Uncle Jeff. So they will not be on a barge trying to land Neutron on a barge. They will be trying to land it softly. You know, a soft landing above water, try to get it to basically reignite, hover above the water, and then once they can do that, then they will slowly let it fall into the sea. They will not be trying a barge landing. So it'll be interesting to see who gets the sticks to landing first. Obviously, Falcon 9 is doing that rather rapidly. They just launched and recovered for the 25th time a Falcon 9 booster last night or the night before when they did the Blue Ghost launch. So that was awesome to see. And so I'm curious to see what happens with Neutron. Obviously, we were 6 or so months away, 5-6 months away from that candle being lit. But will that have a slightly safer hover and then slow movement into the sea? To me, that's almost as good as sticking a landing. But I'm not sure when the next anticipated launch for New Glenn is. It looked like that they had a rocket being prepared in the facility when they were looking at it the other day. If you look behind kind of the two ladies that were presenting on tonight's forecast the other night, it looked like they had two halves of the Blue Origin ready. You can kind of see that right behind them. You can kind of see the two halves. So curious to see when that next launch would be. I'm sure they learned a lot from this particular launch, and we'll be able to calibrate that and input that into the next New Glenn. And so curious to see what ends up happening with respect to that. But in terms of also potentially doing the Starship 7, it really just depends on what time of day. You know, unfortunately, I work 9 to 5. You know, fortunately, I guess I work 9 to 5. But unfortunately, that might mean that I miss some launches. Fortunately, these windows have been open from 1 to 3 a.m. Eastern time, so it's allowed me to stream. I wish that we could be up for the next 5-6 hours covering this, but unfortunately, at some point, I will
We reached
hit
orbit.
Hit the bed.
Now we are still going to take some time to deliver our to deliver our payload to orbit. As a reminder, the blue ring Pathfinder is going to stay attached to that second stage as it orbits the Earth, collecting all its data, testing all of that very important telecom and avionics technology that is going to roll right into our blue ring program, to the blue ring vehicle itself. Now, we didn't have booster landing, but man, we got close. And as we have said in the previous webcast, it is about collecting data. Data is the currency of success. And if, with that being the case, we collected so much data. And man, oh man, we're going to take that information, we're going to roll it back into the next New Glenn, which is literally over my shoulder, waiting to have all of that incorporated. I mean, all of this, the engineering that has gone into it, the testing,
and all the lessons learned too. You know, these are really complicated, intricate engineering systems that we have designed, and it's really hard to do. And every time we get that data and we can infuse into the next iteration of it, of course, we have a GS1-2 right behind us. So there's another booster coming, and we're just so proud.
We cannot wait to bring you that next launch. I'm raring to go. Denise, it has been a joy to have you here. Thank you for all of your insights, for your joy, your passion. You exude Team Blue and New Glenn, Team New Glenn. Let me just ask you, what are you going to remember the most from this evening?
I think seeing that image of the 7 BE4s after it cleared the pad. I mean, again, we know from analysis and data what it's supposed to look like, what it might sound like, and we've envisioned it for years. And then to see it on the screen, it was honestly the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it has. It again, as you said, we've all had these visions in our mind. We've had animations, like what we think it's going to look like. But there is nothing like seeing that real booster, the real, you see that flame come out from the base of that vehicle as it took off. It is just insane. Thank you so much for being a part of today's webcast. It really has been an honor to be with you, to take part in our first New Glenn webcast. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us. To our customers, to the Defense Innovation Unit that is supporting our Blue Ring Pathfinder. Thank you very much to you. You have been supporters of the Pathfinder, but especially of Blue Ring. You are believers. Now you know what? I know Team Blue has a lot to celebrate. I don't know if there's going to be too much work going on tomorrow as we celebrate all of this. Everybody, Mission 1 is in the books. I cannot wait, and I look forward to seeing you all back here again soon as we get New Glenn 2 ready to launch. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I think we've got one last way that we can get our viewers engaged.
Yes. So I do want to speak a little bit more about Team Blue. You know, we talked about the hard work and all the cool engineering that we do here and just the immense pride that we have for what we do. So if you're watching this and you're feeling inspired or energized by what we accomplished today, about what Blue Origin is, our values, we would love for you to come join us. So we've got hundreds of positions available, manufacturing jobs specifically in the Space Coast, Florida, Huntsville, Alabama, West Texas. Of course, we have our headquarters in Seattle, Washington.
All right, guys. I think that it's a good place to stop for that. I think it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys for the last hour or so. They're engineers. Oh, man, I'm not smart enough. I'm not nearly smart enough. I'm just a lonely petroleum engineer. It's like a basic mechanical engineer, basic chemical engineer, and a geologist all in one. So by no means do I have any sort of aeronautical or aerospace engineering skills. That'd be funny, but it'll be good. But I appreciate you all stopping by. It's a really interesting time to be able to check out New Glenn. I'm curious to see when they actually do try to launch New Glenn number 2. And I think it's interesting to see how this planned out. I'm curious to see the similarities and differences as to what we see with Neutron in the next 5 to 6 months. And I'm very curious to see when it comes to sticking the landing for New Glenn and also the sticking the landing for Neutron and the soft landing that they're going to try to attempt to do on number 1, how that shows up as well. We're not going to be sitting around waiting for the next 5 or 6 hours for this payload to collect all of its data, and eventually, I don't know if they're going to try to get it to come back to Earth or what, but I'll tell you guys what, it's 1:30 a.m. here Central Time, 2:30 Eastern, 26 plus minutes beyond the launch of the New Glenn number 1. congrats to those guys. It's been an awesome time watching, and I appreciate you guys stopping by, the 60 of you. I think at one point we had over 100 people stopping by during the peak of the actual launch itself. So interesting to see. But nope, I got to head in and get my alarm clock ready. And hopefully I do not sleep past my alarm like I have the past few days. I have a 7:30 meeting that I have to attend to, so in the office. So hopefully I can get some swift sleep and then head into the office for an interesting another day making oil and gas for the world. So you guys rock, appreciate you, and hopefully we'll keep you guys apprised of any future Rocket Lab launches, New Glenn launches, SpaceX launches, if they have anything pertinent to Rocket Lab or anything of the like, and maybe even Starship launches if time allows. You guys rock, and as always, check me out on Palantir Weekly, Rocket Lab Weekly, and ad hoc things. And then I do believe, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but we will have somebody else starting up a new weekly stream as well. They're a dear friend of mine, dear friend of the channel, and hopefully with that, you guys can catch me over there. And I really hope in the coming days or so, they allow me to advertise and actually send you over to their channel and subscribe, because it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say about what they are finding as a niche in today's markets. So you guys rock. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I know I did, and I will catch you guys on the next one. It'll be a good time. Talk to you guys then. Cheers.